Hi, my name is Sushant Bathla. I am a qualified CFA. I passed all three levels of the CFA examination, and also I've done my FRM, which is Financial Risk Management, and also I've covered my CMAs. So today I will be teaching some of the topics for your course, and I will try to explain you those topics. So let's start and let's work on this topic. Hopefully you can see my screen. Okay. So today I will be covering some of the topics. So let's first discuss earning per share. So we have earning per share. Okay. So we call this EPS. So okay, for this, let me just draw the P&L. So here is my P&L, my income statement. So for my P&L and my income statement, first, I have a sales. Let's say my sales is 10,000. That is my goods which I've sold. So I've sold goods worth 10,000. And let's say COGS, that is basically my cost of goods sold. And that is, let's say, 4,000. So this COGS is your goods which you have sold. So how much this costs? Now there you get your gross profit. Let's say in this case it is coming out to be 6,000. From this you subtract your operating expense. So these are your expense regarding your operation. So that is 2,000. So you get EBIT, that is your earning before interest and tax, which is 4,000 in this case. From this I subtract my interest. Let's say it is $1,000. In total, I get my EBT, my earning before tax is coming out to be 3,000. From this, I subtract my tax. Suppose my tax is 30%, which is $900. In total, my net profit, that is my profit after all the expense, is coming out to be 2,100. So what I've done is I have taken my sales, and from this I have reduced my COGS. I have reduced my office expense, that is 2,000. And let's say I have reduced my payment for the interest, and then I have reduced my taxes. In total, after all the expense, the profit that I get is my net profit. Okay, so that is my net profit. Now here, so this is my net profit. Now this belongs to the equity holders. So that is my profit after all the payment. So a firm, suppose this is a company, it basically raises capital from debt or from equity. So for the debt they have paid the interest, but for the equity, let's say I have 100 equity. So for 100 equity, my profit is how much? 2,100. So therefore I compute my earning per share. That is, for one share, how much I have made a profit. Now in this case, the formula for EPS is net profit minus preference dividend upon number of shares. That is number of equity. In this case, my equity was 100 and my net profit was 2,100. Let's assume that there is no preference dividend. That is zero. In this case, upon 100, so my earning per share is $21. That is, for every one share, I have made a profit of $21. So this is per share. That is basically my EPS. That is how you can compute your earning per shares. So you basically take sales, you subtract all the expense, then you get net profit, and then divide this by the number of shares, and then you get your earning per share. Okay. Now here in this example, I have mentioned you that number of shares are 100, but in the examination you are supposed to compute the number of shares. So for example, if the questions mentions like this, that on 1st January you have, suppose let's assume you have 1,000 shares, and on 1st July, that is after 6 months, you basically issue some shares. Let's say you issue 500 shares. Now for this, and let's say, so let's draw the timeline. So this, let's say the year is from 1st January to 31st December. So on 1st January, the number of shares is 1000, and after 6 months, on 1st July, the company issues some extra share. So when the company issues some new shares, the number of shares will basically increase. So in that case, my number of shares will become 1000 plus 500, which is 1500. So my right now, my number of shares outstanding is 1500 after 6 months. So to compute the number of shares, I compute the weighted average. That is, I will say for this time period, my number of share outstanding was 1000, and for the second time period, my number of outstanding shares were 1500. Now to compute the number of shares, 1000 into these were outstanding for 6 months. That is why I did 6 upon 12. And similarly, 1500 into 6 by 12. So in total 500, and this is 750. In total, my weighted average number of shares is 125. So that is my number of shares outstanding. So in my formula for EPS, if you remember, it was net profit minus preference dividend upon number of shares. The number of shares that I will take is this amount, not 1500, but this amount will be my number of shares outstanding. So make sure that in this formula you put this number of shares equal to 1250. Hopefully this part is okay. So let's move further and discuss some difficult question regarding this topic. Let's assume on 1st January the number of shares were 1 lakh. On 1st April, the number of shares were 40,000. And on 1st October, okay, so this was the number of shares issued. So the company bring new shares in the market, let's say of 40,000. And on 1st October, the this was the number of shares repurchased. We call this buyback. When the company buy certain shares. So when the company so buyback, this is also known as repurchase. Okay. So on 1st January, the number of shares outstanding was 1 lakh. Then the company issued more shares. So this will basically increase the number of shares because the company is bringing new shares to the market. And when the company buy back or repurchase, this will decrease the number of shares outstanding. So let's draw the timeline. This is my 1st January. This is my 1st April. And that is my 1st October. So for this time period, the company own 100k shares. And let's say on 1st April, the company issued more shares. So this become 100k plus 40,000. So this is 100k plus 40,000. So this become 1,40,000. And similarly, on this date, 1st October, the company buy back certain shares. So in that case, the number of share outstanding on this date will be 140. But the company, so when the company repurchase share, the number of share decrease. In total, 110 will be my number of share outstanding for the last 3 months. So for this time period, my number of share outstanding was 140, and for this time period, the number of share outstanding was 110, and similarly for this green time period, the number of share outstanding was 1 lakh. Now to compute the number of share outstanding, what we will do is 1 lakh. These were outstanding for 3 months from January, February, and March. And from 140, the number of share outstanding was for 6 months: April, May, June, July, August, and September. Of course, you will not count the October month. And lastly, 110 into 3 by 12. So this is your 25,000. This is your 70,000, and this is your 27,500. In total, the number of outstanding shares will be 1225. So this is the answer. This is the number of shares that you will use in your formula. And we call this weighted average share outstanding. Okay. So that is how you can compute the number of shares outstanding. Hopefully this part is okay. Okay. Now let's move to the next topic. I will try to cover multiple topics in this demo session. Let's first discuss short selling. Okay, let's see short selling. So short selling is basically when you are very bearish on the stock. So let's say I don't have the stock with me right now, but I am very bearish on the stock. In that case, I will try to make a profit out of it. Now let's see that how we can make a profit. Now let's discuss short selling. Suppose this is me, Sushant, and let's say I am basically checking this stock. Let's say the stock name is HDFC Bank. Let's assume that the share right now is trading at a price of 1,000. So the price of the share right now is 1,000, and I am very bearish on this stock. So I assume or I forecasted that this stock will decrease. Right now the price is 1,000, but I assume that this stock will decrease. So what I did is I borrow this stock from the broker. Let's say this is a broker. I borrow this stock from him. So the stock is with me right now. So I borrow this stock with a promise that I will give back this stock to him after 1 day. So I will return after 1 day. Now, when I get the stock, I sell that stock. Let's say the market in the India is National Stock Exchange. That is my market in which the shares can be buy and sold. That is in case of India. So let's say I will. So let's say I borrow shares and I sold that share. On the next day, let's say, so when I sell, there will be cash inflow. So I will get 1,000. And let's say my forecast was right. The stock eventually fell. It came down to, let's say, 800 INR. In that case, when the price become 800, I buy the stock at a price of 800, resulting in a profit of 200, because I was selling this stock at a higher price and then I buy back this share at a low price, which basically result in a profit of 200. Obviously, this broker, so I buy this share, so the stock is back with me, and I basically gave that share to the broker. I make a profit of 200, and let's say the broker charges me some sort of commission. Let's say he charges me some sort of commission. Let's say commission is 20 rupees. In total, still I make a net profit of 180. This is short selling. When you are very bearish on the stock, you assume that the stock will fall. So you borrow, sell that in the market. When the price decrease, you buy that stock and then you give it back to the broker. This entire process is known as short selling. Now here in this, there's a one risk. The risk is if rather than falling, the stock price eventually increase. Let's say the price increase and it become 1400. Let's assume some numbers. So I will sell this stock at a price of 1,000, but I have to repurchase or buy at a price of 1400, resulting in a loss of 400 rupees. Apart from that, I also have to pay the commission. The commission is 20. In total, I suffer a loss of minus 420. This is my short selling. Okay, hopefully this part is okay. So short selling is when you're very bearish on the market, you are betting. So here, when the market in fact fell, I make a profit of 180 rupees. But if the market goes bullish, in that case, I will lose the money. So that is known as my short selling. Okay, and let's further discuss one more topic. The topic is call option. Okay, let's first discuss future option. Okay, now let's see what is future option is. Now let's see what is future option. In the future option, I let's say I make a contract with you that I will be selling something in the future. Let's say I am making wheat and I told you that I will sell that wheat in the future. Let's say after 6 months. So I promise to sell you wheat after 6 months. and you, let's say, promise to buy in the future. So let's see future. Let's say, suppose, like I said, this, let's say this is me, Sushant, and let's say this is you. So I make a contract with you that I will be selling in the future. So at time zero, let's say on 1st January, I make a contract that I will be selling to you in the future at on 30 June at a price of 50 per kg. So here I basically make a promise to sell. At this point, I make the promise, I make the agreement with you, and I will be selling here. On 30 June, I will be selling at a price of 50 per kg. So I basically have the obligation to sell, and you, on the other hand, has the obligation to buy. Again, this is a legal contract. So we both are legally bound to perform our obligation, but still we have locked in the price. So we locked in the price on 1st January, but the selling and the buying will be done in the future. So here, this price is locked. For example, if let's say after 6 months, on 30 June, for example, so here's a buyer, that was you, and I was selling. Okay. Now, if the market price is, let's say, 80, if the market price is 80, then also I'm obliged to sell at a price of 50. Something that is of 80, but still, because I have locked in this rate, I will be required to sell that at a price of 50. So here, you are just paying 50 and you are getting item worth 80. So you make a buyer make a profit of 30 rupees per kg, and I will lose 30. So your gain is actually my loss. And similarly, if the price fall, if the market price become 35, let's say, if the price is 35, something that is worth 35, I will be able to sell you at a price of 50. I make a profit of 15. So here the seller make a profit of 15 and the buyer make a loss of 50. This entire process is known as future option. We lock in this rate. Okay, I promise to, that I will sell in the future. You promise that you will buy in the future. That is a legal contract. So we do this contract with the help of exchange. In India, the exchange is NSC. So we do this contract with the help of exchange, and I promise to sell, and you promise to buy. This is a future option of, and obviously, if my profit is 15, your loss is 15, and if your gain is 30, my loss will be 30. Okay, so that is known as your future option, because now this contract is basically used to hedge my risk, because now I'm not concerned, because if the price fell to 35, still I will be able to sell you at a price of 50. So I have locked in this rate. Now I'm not concerned what will be my price after, let's say, 6 months. That is my future contract.